I'm gonna enjoy it with some Burger King. Here I come, baby! Burger King! Burger King!
I'm JFM, and this is a rooster. And this is my punching bag. And this is my studio. I'm the creator of an online comic series, Jeff and Taylor. A comic about two teenage boys on misadventures, loaded with humor, action, a great cast of colorful characters, and a growing fan base. To give back for my fortunate accomplishments, I'll be teaching the fundamentals of making a comic or graphic novel series. This is JFM's Comic Class.
Sup, y'all? Hello, students. Welcome to the second lesson of JFM's Comic Class. Lesson 2, Panel Flow. Now, this lesson, I'm just going to give you the gist of setting up panels and what you want to think about. You know, if you want to, you have to have this little setup with your panels because you want to have your story be read in a clear and understanding way. So I'm just giving you some different examples on how to set up your pages and all that. I even show you also a little bit of my work as an example, including I'll even show you some pages off of Case Closed, aka Detective Conan from Gosho Oyama. He's like my number one influence. So I'm going to show you some of these pages because these pages have really taught me on how to set up my panels. So, without further ado, let's begin the lesson. I'm going to show you some of my pages, actually tell you the anatomy of a comic page. So here we go. Alright, so here we go. These are a couple pages from my from the Jeff and Taylor issue 1 G Station. And I'm just going to show you some things. Of course, we know the panels, each little shape here, each little box is a panel. They can be squares, rectangles, triangles, circles. Anything that actually has the picture within it is a panel. In between the panels are gutters, and they can either be white, solid black, or just lines. Whatever works for you and your style. And let's keep going. Well, actually, I want to show you something. If you've read my comics here and there, or if you're an avid fan, you've noticed that I always use 3 tiers, and a tier is, if we separate the page into a like grid-like system, I separate them in 3 tiers. Going this way, they're tiers, and going vertically, they're called columns, I believe. So yeah, I always work with, on average, I always work with 3 tiers, 2 columns, and that's pretty much it. And sometimes I even break the rules, break my own grid if it works, because of the action scenes that happen. Sometimes, you see a 4-tier system. We see, I don't know, it's like, this is more like 3.5, because we see 1, 2, 3, but the bottom third is separated in 2, kind of, we see here. There's that. And you notice, like I said, with my action panels, they're always angled like this. As long as it reads through, it works. I even go, like a crazy page like this, when something big happens. Very Case Closed-esque that I did something like this, and we'll see later. Another thing I'd like to show you. These are pages, but sometimes you want to use the whole spread, and 2 pages together is called a spread. So there's that. Okay, so that's enough of that. I think if you want to read the whole G Station, I guess you can go to jeffandtaylorcomic.com to read it, even though I kind of spoiled the ending. Whoops. Oh well. Anyway, onto the board. I'm gonna actually draw out some pages for you. Here we go. Here's the board. Panel flow. Lesson 2. I'm your instructor, Mr. JFM. Now, I have here 3 different pages. I kind of pre-drew this one, but it's for a special reason. But I'm just going to show you 6 different. Did I say 3? I meant 6. 6 pages. 6 pages here that I have, I have my notes there, so forgive me if I look. I want to have this unedited, because this is just like a real life classroom. It's almost like you guys are sitting in the room with me, kind of. Although I kind of prefer that because I want to interact with people. It's not easy to make jokes and all that if I don't have an audience to actually have a reaction to have based off of. And you know me, I work without a script because everybody likes JFM raw JFM. That's what everybody likes. Almost everybody. So, the very first panel I'm going to draw, or should I say page, is a very basic one. Now, you may see me do like three in the top. 1, 2, let's have the middle one be skinny. They can vary in sizes as long as it works. The story. It's very hard to explain. This whole stuff is hard to explain. I'm just showing you different ways to draw out your panels. And we have 2 in the bottom. There we go. As you can see, I separated my page in 3 tiers. 1, 2, 3. And I work with a grid, with a 3 columns, so I separated it like, 1, or should I say, the 3 here, but 2 columns, I should say, and then I just split this in half. Like I said, kind of hard to explain. In fact, I think I should draw while I'm in front, because that's easier. The second one, you see this a lot from my comics. This long panel. Sometimes if I want to show something big or important, I just put something here. As long as, if you do something like this, and you want to have your audience go from, let's say, from this panel all the way to this panel, just make sure your speech bubble is like somewhere on top. Actually has the reader's eye go to this panel next. Because if you put it in the bottom, they might go to this panel, or maybe down here. So, just the eye naturally goes that way. Even though you're like, hey, this is my comic, of course it makes sense. Of course, not everybody has the same brain as you, so there you have it. Sometimes what I would do is separate the pages in 2 panels only. That's in like establishing shots or something. Or one big panel here and then 2 panels. I usually use that as my first page of an episode. What else? Oh, let's draw some dynamic panels for an action scene. I'll do something like this. Now, when you draw your dynamic panels, you got to make sure it really helps with the action, because if your character is moving, let's say, I'm gonna have, let's draw a character here. Let's draw a stick figure guy. This is Ed, but he's going out. Excuse me, he's going towards the right or something like that. So make sure he goes here. So naturally he goes this way. So your eye goes this way and then ends up here. So let's say Ed, it's like going this way now. Then that leads us to go here. When something happens, like let's say a choke, a very close up of Ed panicking. Maybe a speed bubble here that allows us to connect us here, and then somewhere we end up here. So it was, yeah. It's kind of strange if you put dynamic panels in a very strange scene, in a very mundane scene. Like, let's say, you're not going to put these panels when a character is like talking about the weather, and nothing happens, unless you're going for that sort of thing, like ironic humor. The next thing I want to show you. What the hell is that? Well, I'll show you this. Wait. Sometimes what I do is not every panel I draw is solid black. Solid black lines. Sometimes they're dashed lines. The dashed lines that I draw indicate like a story within the story. Probably yeah, in episode 10 of JFM Taylor, they actually tell a story. And to make sure to actually tell the difference between their story and the actual story, Jeff and Taylor's Jeff and Taylor's stories are within these dashed panels. Now they're made in the computer, so they're actually 3 lines, like 3 lines within the panel borders. So there you have it. Oh, and this is another setup. Establishing shot, long shot, blah blah. A little advice, since this is a Western comic, it reads from left to right. You almost never want. Yeah, you almost never want this to be in the opposite side of 2 panels, because it's almost like, it's very weird. If we were to mirror this, it's very weird to read this one block, then read this long block, and then go back here. So, yeah, that's why it's always better to actually have your long panel like this on the left side of the page. Because you're done with this. You're done with the left side. So you go here and then down. If we mirror this, like we have to go and then back here. So that's my little tidbit. Now with different panels, I already showed you the dash lines. Now let's go with wavy lines, which I use for flashbacks or fantasies or dream sequences. The same rules apply with regular panels, except these are wavy lines. Yeah, that's it. Even with action sequences, they may be a dream, so you use that. Use them. Yeah. And last but not least, I sometimes use a character to separate the panels themselves. Now we see here. Let's probably take a closer look at this. Alright, this is a quick drawing, but I have my character, just a random character I have, separate this long panel with her hand, her arm. But they can work as 2 different panels. And it helps because her arm actually it helps us go to this panel first, and then whatever happens in this panel will lead us down to this one. And then these 2 in the bottom. Now, if you want to do something like this, you want to make sure your speech bubble, like I would draw the speech bubble probably here on this side, because if a character is going to talk here, then you're going to have him or her have his the speech bubble here, somewhere up here, and down here. It's a good idea not to have the speech bubble be all the way down here either. So none of that. Alright, so that's it for the board. Now to show you better examples, I'm just going to show you a few pages of Gosho Oriyama's Case Closed, Volume 1. Okay, well this will be quick. So yeah, this is from Japan, so it reads from right to left. But same rules apply. Just mirror everything. Now here we go. Here's the long panel. Now I told you not to do this in our Western comics, because we might go from here, then all the way down here. It's very unnatural to read from here, and then here. So it works here because we're reading from right to left. I just mirror everything, and you can tell I take influence off of his work, just like how many other kids take influence off of my work. And I love what he did here, fading. This is a great way to do a fade in a comic, There we go. And sometimes he would use the whole page for something shocking. And something, you know, like a huge moment in the story. He does it again, wait, here. This is the big story. This is big because he actually reveals his name. Or makes up the name on the spot. And that's pretty much the setup of the whole entire series. Which is still going for some reason. Because this is popular. Here we go. Action panels. Dynamic panels. And this is where I get everything. This is the main influence. I first read this and I'm like, wow. This is how you do an action scene. And that's where I got it from. And I've also noticed with his work is that not every tier is the same width, I should say. Because here's one tier. It's huge, while this tier is kind of small. And this tier too is like the same size. I guess you can say he separated the page in two, and then separated the bottom half into two. With the whole tiers, you know. So that's one way to look at it. Yeah. Alright, now it's time for the Q&A, where I answer your questions that were left from the last comic class video, and I'm excited to start. I'm excited to answer questions. I love questions. Anyway, here we go. Actually, first thing first, I want to show you some things that I got from a fan. He actually sent me these via mail. This is from John Blake from New York, and actually sent his original comic of Blue here. He also sent some more original artwork. Here's Blue with his character, and even do Jeff and Taylor here. So I'm going to keep this in my fan art folder. I always have my fan art folder over there. You know, it contains all the fan art and fan letters that I got from fans all over the world, starting back in 2010. So that's when things really started for me. He even wrote a letter, which I will read to you. And he writes, "Hey Jeff, thanks so much for the opportunity to let me do a guest comment for you and for the interview. Jeff and Taylor is an excellent series that I hope you keep going strong. I hope you also have the same appreciation for I see you also have the same appreciation for mega-boobed ladies as I do, so I'm going to include a picture of two of our big boob ladies together for you. So I'll give you one of my albums. I hope you can enjoy them, and we can stay friends." By John Blake. So yeah, so thank you for the letter, John. If you're watching this video, and he actually sent me this. He actually makes music. This is a cassette player. A cassette tape. All I need is a cassette player. I can actually play this. It's like the early '90s. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to read off the questions that were left off by the fans in my Jeff and Taylor themed iPad. This is the iPad case. That's it. And no, these are just stickers. You know, this is just a regular case that I bought at Office Max. Now, when I'm reading Q&A, when I'm reading questions for the Q&A, there are some questions that I don't want to answer due to spoilers or something like that. Because people ask about the comic and I don't want to answer because, you know, spoilers. So, if that ever occurs, you will see this. That's right, a shrug. So, let's start. This guy has two questions. He is Daisuke37546, and he asks, "How many chapters are in your books?" Well, that depends. Well, I don't have chapters. I have episodes, you know, different issues or different, you know, things. But in my books, normally I have 3 episodes per book. If you count the bonus comic, that's 4. So 4 chapters. There you have it. Well, it's like the first 3 chapters are equal in length, while the 4th chapter is very short. Yeah. This next question: how do you shrink your pages to Kablam template? Well, I'll get into more further detail about that in a future comic lesson where I talk about self-publishing. But how I do it, I always make sure since I work in the manga size template, it's always 5.25 inches, again with 7.5 inches. I think maybe I've switched those around. Maybe it's 5.5 by 7.25 inches. But I shrink them down to that size, the same dimensions, while still having them being in the same quality, the same resolution. 300 DPI. That's print work. That's print ready work. And you always make sure it's a CMYK. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And always make sure make sure your print ready files are in TIFF format, because JPEGs they're not meant for print. It's either TIFF or PDFs. Those two files are print ready files. And make sure they're they're at least 300 DPI. Shrink your pages to the bland template. So yeah, that's it. I always do my work in Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator. Those are the three big ones that I use. The Osney has a question. In your JNT comic, what's coming on the next episodes? Horror, action, or what? Well, I should add, what's coming up in the next episodes? I should say about Volume 4. The 3 episodes of Volume 4 that's coming up. Episode 10 will be comedy, action. Episode 11 will be mostly action and suspense. No, not horror, but there is some suspense there. Maybe one little scary part in episode 11. And episode 12 will be mostly, comedy and suspense and thriller, but no violence or anything like that. So yeah, horror won't be coming up until episode when is it? 30 maybe? I don't know. I have to look at my episode list. Lydia Burgo, I hope I pronounced that name right. Burgo. Okay. She asks, what do you do if a crowd of people criticize your work in a bad way? Well, I'd say if two or more people, actually generally criticize something in your work, I'd say just listen to them and see what they have to say, and actually heed their advice. Take their advice and all that. But if a group of people just slam your work just for little or no reason, I say just ignore them. Just be professional. Don't, actually yell at them or insult them, because that'll just fuel the fire. So just say, okay, all right, and just walk off, because it's really your work, and you should just do what you want to do. But at the same time, if a person really wants to actually grow as an artist, if they really want you to and give you some advice, and actually take it, I'd say don't feed the trolls. That's what I'm saying. All right. Hansel Cintron has asked, what is Blue's real name? Well, a very simple question comes with a very simple answer. Next question. Tan Kid 2 has 2. How do you make a good comic book cover? Well, good comic book covers are a subjective thing. They're heavily, it all depends on the person's opinion. I guess I should say it all winds up down to your opinion on what a good cover is. You just do something that actually grabs the audience's attention. Something that actually explains the episode or the comic, in one big summary. Something big, something flashy. Although not all covers are flashy. But at the same time, you don't want to do something, what is it? I'm brain farting here. You don't want to false advertise. It's like YouTube thumbnails. You see a woman's cleavage, and then you see some ugly dude talking. So that's the kind of video that people don't appreciate, because you false led them. If your comic is about the comic book cover is a completely different style, especially, or if it has something that the actual comic does not have, then yeah, that's a bad cover, I'd say. It doesn't matter how well drawn it is. If it falsely represents the comic, then it's a bad cover. Yeah. So it doesn't really wind up on art or how on the artwork. It all depends on how it summarizes the comic and if it's honest. You know what I mean? Okay, and this next question, how many pages do you think you need for a good comic? It all depends on what you want to do. I'd say do your whole story. It doesn't matter how many pages it is. Just tell your whole story and everything. I know it's kind of hypocritical for me to say because every one of my issues is like 48 pages long, not counting the cover and summary page. And I do that because I'm wildly influenced on TV. You know, television episodes are exactly 22 minutes long. Or let's say 30-minute episodes are actually 22 minutes long. I should say that. And they all have to be that way. Just for the commercials, you know. So I have that mindset. Okay, every episode should be exactly the same length because I don't want one issue to be quote unquote bigger than the other one, unless it's a special episode. But still, I'm not like that. It's like I'm very obsessive compulsive when it comes to my issues because if everything's the same and then one is different, then I'm like, that really bothers me. But yeah, let's say don't worry about how many pages it is. I'll just say just do what you want to do. You know? Yeah. And I think that's pretty much it. That's all the questions I got. If you have a question for me, just just send it, type it in the comment section below. Lesson 2 of the JFM's comic class is in the bag. Now, it took me a long time to do this because it's so, I wasn't happy with the take. I always stumbled on my words and all that. Even now, even though this is I promised myself this is the final take. Even now, I'm not satisfied with it, to be honest. Because this lesson, this lesson is really not, there's not a lot to talk about panels. Not a lot. I'd say if you really want to learn about panel placement, just get influenced by other comics, other manga or whatever. Because just like how I learned from Gosho's work. Even though it's like a one-trick pony. It's like I'm saying, people are going to accuse me of copying his work, but I just use that as influence and actually try to make it my own. I guess that's how these lessons are. These lessons are to show you a way to do things, not the way to do things. Just to influence you, to make you think. I believe that's what classrooms are for, especially college. College classrooms, they make you think, not to show you the right way to do things. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I apologize if this comic lesson isn't big or anything or entertaining, but hey, the next lesson will be about lettering, and I have a whole bunch to say about that. So expect that to be informative. Very informative. So there you have it. JFM out. Well, almost. Am I missing anything? No. Oh yeah. Forgot. If you guys want to support me and actually purchase some comics, I have Jeff and Taylor Volume 1 and Volume 2, which is actually somewhere. I guess it's over there. I don't know. Jeff and Taylor Volume 1 and 2 and 3 is on its way. Just go to the link in the bottom, in the description below. That'll lead you to my little section of Indie Planet. That's where I sell the book. Those are the people that actually print the book for me. And yeah, support Jeff and Taylor. If you really want to learn more about this series and if you enjoy my videos, then please subscribe. That would be awesome. From all the subscribers that I got and all the people that bought my comics, I have my sincerest gratitude. I really love it. I love you guys, really. So there we have it. More videos on the way. JFM's comic class number 3 will be out sometime this summer. So, yeah. There you have it, guys. JFM out, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.